to the AFC Northcast. The authoritative voice that you're hearing is Joey. And I am here, as always, with Steelers Chad.
8-0.
Or just Chad.
I'll take the title.
Hey,
I
how
can be
long has it been since
Steelers
an
Chad.
undefeated team won the Super Bowl?
I don't know.
How long
1972.
how long has it been since the last team to be undefeated in the league won the Super Bowl? That's a stat that I'd be interested in
It must be
seeing.
1970. Oh, the last team.
Like whoever was the last team that was undefeated, because the Colts did it for like years and years. And
I can't answer that question specifically, but I can say that 26 times since 1970, which was the NFL merger, a team has gone 8-0, and 15 times they made the Super Bowl. So it's pretty good odds compared to the field.
yeah, making the Super Bowl, that's for loser franchises. If you're gonna go, you might as well win it.
I'm tempted to go back and forth with you on that, but as an older person now, I've actually found that, and maybe it's because I've seen them win too, that helps. But I'm kind of just happy when they get there. I get to see them play every week of the football season, and if they lose, it didn't really piss me off last time. It was the Packers, who I kind of like as a franchise, so that helps. If it was Dallas, I'd be really upset. Probably just depends on who they're playing. I'm not fretting it, man. I'm not fretting it. What kind of aminos are you drinking tonight to celebrate your pathetic, scrappy win?
I am not drinking any aminos tonight because you know what? When you beat a division leading 5-2 football team in their home without two all pros, you celebrate with a margarita on the rocks. And so that's what we're getting after today.
Nice. I like
So
it.
it's more a celebration of how the Steelers looked on Sunday than a celebration of how the Ravens looked on Sunday.
You should be so happy because you're shallow like that, so you didn't see all the diamonds that the Steelers were displaying. Well, I'll be drinking Hill Farmstead Society and Solitude, which is a fantastic little number, an imperial IPA brewed with mosaic hops. And the reason I chose it is because the Steelers are lonely at the top. There's no other undefeated team in the league, and it's just we're by ourselves. Solitude. It's gonna be a good week, Joey. Good week.
Probably for you.
As
Probably
long
for
as
both
Ben.
of us. But before we move on to this coming week, let's revisit Sunday, week 9 in the NFL. We only had two games in the best division in football, the AFC North. And we're going to go backwards chronological order. We're going to talk about what happened in Jerry World. The late window on Sunday, the Steelers beat the Cowboys by enough points, but by not enough points. I don't remember the
Yeah,
final score, but
it was
it wasn't pretty.
24-19.
Sick.
And you get a score like 24 when you score three touchdowns and do not get any points after at any point.
Four.
They scored three and kicked two field goals
Okay.
because they had a missed extra point, a blocked extra point, and a failed 2-point conversion.
And then Boswell banged through a 59-yarder that looked like it was good from like
59-yarder.
70.
And the magic of that, because the Steelers special teams could really be its own episode tonight. He actually missed the 54-yarder before that, but the Steelers committed a penalty. So they had to back it up 5 yards and kick it again. And he made it. how pissed must have Dallas been at that? He missed the 54-yarder.
I think Dallas was just happy to be there.
Dude, I don't even know exactly where you want to start because I'm sure you said it. You loved watching the Steelers' performance. It was, in a lot of ways, it was really frustrating. Special teams were a strong suit all this year up into this game, and they couldn't cover kicks to save their lives. They even had a penalty that gave them a kickoff from the 50, which they pooched way in the air, and their coverage has been great. So you're thinking, this is cool. And he returns it like 96 yards. Now, apparently there's some penalties in there that didn't get called, but there always is. Like, just tackle the guy. Come on. So that was terrible. The running game was non-existent. So obviously that's pretty frustrating. Uh, the defense, the defense. I mean, what was going on with that?
It was very
It was,
bend but don't break type of deal. Like they
dude.
got
It
put
was,
in some bad spots by special teams, but um, I mean, it was just like perfectly exemplified how like not star-crossed, but like how Minka, since he's been a Steeler, is just consistently in the perfect place at the perfect time, like
yep.
all the time.
Yeah, he recovered a fumble that Cam Sutton, made the strip on that, which is great. He's been playing really well, and he was playing for Mike Hilton, um, who is our normal slot corner. Uh, and so he represented himself well there. And Minka also had an interception in the end zone later in the game. Caught a pass that kind of went errant after Gilbert got hit during the throw. So yeah, Minka started the season slow, but he's been involved in some turnovers lately, and he was definitely a bright spot in this game. Also, um, wasn't really tackling really well early in the year, but he made some nice tackles in the run game, which I didn't write down much because I was so mad when they were happening. Because usually it was after like Tony Pollard ran for like 18 yards, and I was like, "What is going on here?" Um, it was crazy. I couldn't really make heads or tails of it, but the one thing I noticed was that the Steelers usually give their opponents kind of an even playing field by once a game putting a middle linebacker on their best receiver. It's just a way to be sporting. Um, I thought we got it out of the way early when TJ Watt got beat by CD Lamb for a
Yeah.
touchdown. Um, and it was a good, like, dude, it was a good play. Like, Dallas put CD Lamb in motion. They saw what they saw, and Watt was on him, and he just ran a nice route, and Watt couldn't keep up. So good job, Cowboys. Um, but the Steelers, recognizing that Dallas is a dumpster fire, they just did it all game. And apparently, the reason was they just decided to stay in their base package, which is a 3-4 defense, meaning four linebackers, um, two corners, and two safeties. And like when Dallas had three wide receivers, they just didn't switch. And it wasn't because Dallas was in hurry up. They just really didn't want to get run on. But the crazy thing is that according to Steelers Depot, when Dallas ran from that package, they still averaged 10 yards a carry. So basically, it was just an all out failure, and they just kept doing it all game. Um, it sucks. I've got nothing to say except like they're trying something, and they had some people missing. Mike Hilton and Tyson Alualu are two of the better run defenders on the Steelers, and they were both out for the game. So maybe they thought that they were doing something smart, but when they had the nickel out there, which is taking a linebacker off and putting a defensive back in instead, they actually defended the run better. So I think they kind of just weren't seeing the forest for the trees during the game, not making adjustments, and uh, almost caught themselves an L for it.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Dallas wasn't like doing a hurry up to like keep them in any type of formation. it was almost the opposite. Dallas was more than content to, like, all their drives. They had the big plays, like the splash plays and the special teams, but not really at all on offense. It was just like third down, Garrett Gilbert running for 10 when he needed 7, and like just like the weird stuff like that. And
Yeah, or just throw into whoever had a linebacker on him.
yeah,
Bud Dupree got burned on an out route really badly in the third quarter by Amari Cooper. Watt got beat by CeeDee Lamb for a touchdown. I saw Highsmith chasing people. I saw Vince Williams chasing people. Everybody took their turn. It was a mess. It was definitely what I'm gonna take from it. No, we can keep shitting on it for a little longer. I don't know if there's actually that much more bad to say about the defense. I mean, they created some turnovers.
yeah,
The defensive line played pretty well, all in all. I mean, Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt, like, if you individually watch, like, they're blowing people up in kind of embarrassing fashion a lot of the time. But yeah, it was, I mean, they gave up 19 points. The Cowboys hadn't scored a touchdown in like 2.5 games or two. It was a long time. It was a long time. Don't nitpick with the numbers. They hadn't scored a touchdown in a while. I feel like the Steelers do this a lot. They have this like amazing record against like backup QBs and inexperienced QBs, but if you actually like dive into the games, they oftentimes it's a little bit of a mess. And we talked about it beforehand. Dallas has really good receivers, and Ezekiel Elliott's good. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I know he's fumbled a lot, but like, yeah, if you give him some space, he's gonna, he's gonna get going a little bit. So they had some themselves a little bit of a slugfest, but the defense held out. 19 points. That's pretty good in 2020.
Yeah, uh, and this is the we've seen it time and time again. This is the Steelers ball game. Like, it's what they're gonna do. We we talked about the potential of the offense in the beginning of the year with Ben coming in, and how the team, an 8-8 team with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, but Ben has very, very much been a game manager this year, and whether that's just what they're doing because it's working, and they're kind of like waiting to pick their spot with, like, kind of like letting Ben loose, um, is more of the same, but they're winning these close games, and the defense is good enough that you can rely on them for the most part late in games, and so
I'm gonna push back a little bit because I've been doing a lot of thinking about this Ben talk, and there's been a lot of trash talking on Ben with the dink and dunk, spread him out offense, and like
it's
frankly,
only trash
aside
talk if you take it as trash talk. It's just
it,
fact.
I know your tone. I know you. And here's the thing. Tom Brady played for 20 years so far, and I think he's been a non dink and dunk quarterback for like one and a half of those years with
Yeah,
Randy Moss.
yeah.
And he's the GOAT. So right now, Ben Roethlisberger is coming out, and it's happened particularly in the second half when they're behind, and running a spread offense in which he's like dictating the routes in the huddle, at least for portions of the play, and it's working. So he's not a game manager like Trent Dilfer. He's like a game manager like Tom Brady. Not as good, but that's what he's doing. Like, he's playing really well. Like, he's not turning the ball over. He's finding the
That's the
open
big
player,
thing.
and
Yeah,
they're dominating from this spread formation. So when I just want to clarify that when we're saying game manager, we're not saying it in the Kirk Cousins, Trent Dilfer, like you are on the train while your team carries you to a Super Bowl. Like, Ben Roethlisberger has choreographed comeback victories the last 2 weeks with his play.
they are not explosive. We'll say, I'll put it that way. They have not shown consistent, reliable, what we've come to expect from the Killer Bees offense and all that. Like, since, even after Le'Veon was gone with Juju and AB, like, he has not shown the explosiveness that really he's had the 4 or 5 years prior to the injury last year.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you and also throw something out there that I'm not sure that you'll see eye to eye with me for. I think that that has been an issue, and they've mostly gotten around it. And I think we talked about it on the last podcast with pass interference. They're still throwing the passes, and they're getting the pass interference calls. Now, I know that in your opinion, the Steelers got the fortune of a lot of good referee calls in this game. So I'm not going to say anything about like the scales of justice, but I will say that in the first half, I felt like there were a couple pass interference calls that could have been made, and that's life. I wasn't complaining, I wasn't jumping off the couch, but I thought they were there. And unfortunately for the Steelers, they haven't been catching those passes, so they've been accumulating those yards with the pass interference. And when they didn't get them, you're right, they became condensed. The positive I take from this is that a lot of the years that the Steelers got all these like big bomb passes, like frankly, Ben was underthrowing them. Receivers were coming back to the ball,
Yeah.
basket catching this nonsense. And that has not been what Ben has been doing. He just hasn't hit the play. But I like the arm strength and I like the willingness to throw into the one on one coverage. So, I mean, halfway through the year, it's hard for me to say there's going to be like a dramatic turnaround. Um, but I think there's enough there that it's it's not the end of the world. I think that I think they can improve incrementally enough that it won't necessarily be a liability come playoff time. But we'll see because it was this week.
Yeah, I think I mean what they're doing very well, and they've been effective, and because the defense is so good, they haven't really been, even when they're playing from behind, they haven't been put in like the dire situations where they need to cover a lot of ground, like 5 minutes left, down two scores, or anything crazy like that.
Yeah,
It's just, and really, there's only one team in the AFC that you're really worried about that with, and it's the Chiefs. Like, just because of the
yeah,
pace that they put up points, there's no other team really with the way that the defense is playing for the Steelers that you're worried about having to play left-handed the way that you have
yeah,
been all year so far.
yeah, and that's why it's like okay, and and obviously I don't want this spread offense thing to be the Steelers' identity. So it's like really easy to look at the way the game played out and be like really disappointed. They couldn't hit the deep ball. They got behind to a terrible team and had to do this and that. But I was doing some thinking on a global level. And we always talk, especially when we're talking about the Ravens, about how they can only win one way. They're this and that. They run the ball. If they get behind, it's over, which isn't really true, but there are numbers that make it look like that. But the Steelers have won the last couple weeks playing like not to their traditional game script. So I'm going to take it as a positive that the team has a little chutzpah. They can survive in a non-ideal circumstance. 4 out of the first 5 games, James Conner had 100 yards rushing. So like it's not like this team doesn't want to run the ball. They're going to get back to it once
Yeah.
they get things figured out. They can play a couple different ways. Ben is willing to throw the deep ball, and they're not always terrible. Um, and they've got the receivers. Chase can go chase him down. James Washington can chase him down. Deontay and Juju can do a lot after the catch, and they can make contested stuff. So they've got the horses. I have
Steve
one other.
Steve on Facebook said that the Panthers showed last week that the Chiefs can be slowed down. I think I have two things to say about that. For a few weeks now, basically since like the Chargers played them weeks and weeks ago, the book has kind of been out on like sitting back and keeping the Chiefs in front and make them beat you that way, which they were happy to do against the Bills when they ran for like 250 yards or whatever. But I mean, they still scored like 33 points or whatever it was on the Panthers. So like the
Yeah,
Panthers
they scored.
scored with the Chiefs
Yeah,
more
they
more
scored
than slowing
33
them down.
points.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't. That's not slow. Like the
But
Steelers. don't score 33 points. So that's not a recipe that, to me, I don't want to take away from the Panthers. I think they played a competitive game and did some nice
Yeah.
things, but when it when you lose and you give up 33 points, I don't know how much you can take from it. And the Raiders beat them, but they had to score 42 to do it. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, you can beat the Chiefs. It's just like, well, very, like, super super hard.
Yeah. Steve said, sure, 13 at halftime is slow for the Chiefs. It is, but I mean, just look at the Super Bowl. You know, they they outscored themselves in the fourth quarter, I think, than the other
Yeah.
three in the Super Bowl. And
Didn't they
still
have
won.
7 in the AFC Championship against the Patriots, and they scored like 30 in the second half, and they
Yeah, I
ended
don't
up
know. I think
losing
they
that
scored
one game to
17
like,
points in like the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. But
look at
anyways, yeah, we
any
get it.
game
I
in the
mean,
last year's
the
playoffs. Yeah.
the Steelers defense is as good as any in the league, and if anybody's
Yeah.
going to slow them down, and the same way that you beat any of these elite quarterbacks is pressure with four, pressure with four. You hear it over and over again about every good quarterback that comes and goes, um, for obvious reasons, and the Steelers can do that. So
Yeah. I have 2 more things I need to complain about. One, I'm actually not complaining. I think it's awesome. I should have talked about it right away because it was special teams. On a was it a kickoff or a punt that they did that crazy lateral?
that was a punt, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So what I loved about it, and I didn't catch it until the commentator said it on the replay, is that the guy that got the lateral, which was, it's not even a lateral, it's like a full field backwards, barely backwards throw. The dude that caught that throw acted like he pulled his hamstring on the way back. So the guy that was running with him, the gunner on the Steelers, just ran by him. He was gimping. He was gimping. And then he was like, give me the ball. It was awesome.
Yeah,
Really
that's
clever
good.
stuff. I enjoyed that. So F you, Dallas, but that was great. And one of the things I noticed, and like, dude, Dallas's defense is so bad. So I was like very much looking forward to a lot of motion offense, like pre-snap motion, get people thinking wrong directions. Steelers really didn't use it that much. Obviously, in the second half, they hardly ever even had a running back on the field. So there's like maybe some limitations to why you would even bother with it. But they had a 3rd and 1 and a 4th and 1 in the first half, which actually led to Dallas's first touchdown. No motion, just line up.
Yeah.
And they didn't even put the tight ends in motion. And our tight ends, like, look, they've got a lot of heart. They're trying, but they're not great blockers. So what you need to do is get them ahead of steam, get them around the corner, and put them on a linebacker, or at least put them with some momentum when they hit that defensive end. They didn't even do that. They just lined up and got beat. And then they did it again in the fourth quarter after it seemed like the game was over with a sweet, sweet Cam Hayward sack. Steelers had 4th and 1 again, went for it, and no motion. And they got stuffed, and then they had to deal with all the stress. I had to be stressed about losing the
Yeah.
Cowboys because the Steelers just couldn't run simple motion. Like, run the fake jet sweep. You don't even have to hand them the ball. Just get people thinking about multiple stuff.
Mm-hmm. You
3 different
freeze the
times.
linebackers and the ends for
Yeah.
just that little bit. Yeah.
And it's almost doubly frustrating because last year I'd be mad about it, but I'd know that it's not even in their playbook. So, like,
Right.
obviously they're not going to do it. It just sucks. But this year they've got it. They've got it. They're using it. So do it. Killing me. So we'll talk about it for next week. But there's a lot of stuff that I need to see different, um, next week, if we want to have a better result.
Yeah. So Steelers move on to 8-0. Maintain their 2-game lead over the Ravens in the division. The Ravens kept pace.
Really 2.5. Really 2.5.
Yeah, we'll see. We play again in 2 weeks, so
Yeah, 2.5 right now.
we'll say two.
Tiebreaker.
Mathematically,
We'll
two
say
game lead.
we'll say 2.5 because tie record. They've got the head to head.
Yep. But they play again, so it's a 2-game lead.
Right now 2.5.
And the Ravens went to Indianapolis shorthanded after a weird week, where we talked about the Marlon Humphrey COVID business last week. Hi, Wesley. Sorry, everybody. Somebody needs attention. No Ronnie Stanley. Uh, Starting right guard Phillips out. No Marlon Humphrey. No LJ Fort. No Mark Ingram. And the Ravens made it happen against a 5-2 football team. It was not pretty in the first half. I did not have fun in the first half at all. The defense was fine. Not great, but fine. They were opportunistic, like they have been pretty much all year. They did give up some rushing yards, and that's what the Colts want to do. We talked about it last week, and they did it really well. I think they had like 40 rushing yards the first two drives. And it was 10-7 at the half. The Colts were up. And I think it was the Colts' first drive of the third quarter. So the Ravens came out in the third quarter, moved the ball very, very well. And Gus Edwards fumbled like on the goal line, like inside the 5.
Yeah.
Which sucks real bad. And so I think on the subsequent drive for the Colts was when Rivers threw basically the biggest talking point from this game, the Marcus Peters interception.
The Marcus Peters play.
The Marcus Peters, both hands on the ball without it moving, taking 4 steps.
Falling down.
That's a catch. 4 steps.
Falling down.
It doesn't matter. 4 steps.
He fell down.
He took 4 steps.
He hit the ground without the ball, so he didn't finish the catch.
How many steps do you have to... Everybody hits the ground unless you score a touchdown. So how many steps after you catch a ball do you have to take before it doesn't matter if you hit the ground anymore?
He was falling the whole time that he was catching the ball, which generally speaking, when they judge if it's a catch, if you're going to the ground as you're catching it, which he was as he was catching it, you have to finish the catch, which he did not do.
Well, he did, because he caught it standing up, and then he was tackled down by the receiver. He didn't just fall.
Yeah, he
on his own.
Did.
He was
really
pulled down.
He was falling as he was coming to the ground.
Anyways, it was ruled an incompletion.
Correctly.
And was challenged. And as we know, you need conclusive evidence to overturn a call. And since there was conclusive evidence that Marcus Peters ran a half marathon with the football in his hands before being tackled to the ground and fumbling the ball, even though the refs called the play dead. It was obviously an interception. And so the Ravens got the ball. The Ravens scored, went up 14-10, and never looked back.
I knew that this play was going to happen in this game because I didn't watch it live. And it, to me, was so obviously a drop that it didn't even occur to me that I was watching it when it happened. Until he actually threw the flag, I was like, oh my God, this is that play. I was like, holy shit. So here's the thing. Yeah, maybe, fine. If I'm being honest, I think that the NFL needs to expand what a catch is just for the sake of us celebrating the athletes that we're watching play the game.
Yeah.
Am I calling? The ref said he made a football move, which is hilarious to me because honestly, he was falling backwards. He was taking steps, but it's like those tiny little steps you do to try to keep your feet under you while you're falling down. If Mike Tomlin made this challenge, 100% of the time he doesn't get it. And that was the test that I applied to it. I was like, if I watched Mike Tomlin make this challenge, would he ever get it? And the answer is no. I don't know or care because the Steelers had some questionable calls, mostly that went in their favor. I didn't think it was a catch based on what I've seen get called not a catch from people falling to the ground before. But that's fine. He made a good play, and it was a bad throw. So I'm willing to move on from it, but
Yeah,
I don't think it.
and whatever you want to say about that play and momentum, the Chiefs didn't score another point in the game.
You mean the Colts?
Or excuse me, the Colts.
You wish. You wish.
Yeah. And the Ravens, whatever adjustments they made, they kind of moved the ball at will. Lamar looked more comfortable, and the lack of production and sustained drives in the first half was also uh, the same thing that we've seen stall this offense all the time. Is like the weird stuff on like third and short. They ran a read option play on one like third and two, and Bozeman got blown like 4 yards off the line into Lamar as they were running like a speed option. And so the whole pitch got fucked up and Lamar got slowed down and they got tackled and had to punt. And so it's weird things like that. Lamar made a poor pass outside the numbers to Hollywood on a third down where Hollywood still got both hands on the ball and bobbled it on his way out of bounds. And so it was fourth down. They had to punt. Like a lot of the weird things like that happened in the first half. And they looked a little more, I guess, polished in the second half.
And for the record, part of what you might mean by weird is that Indianapolis's defensive line, particularly DeForest Buckner, played lights out, and also Darius Leonard is a madman. Like nothing is weird about that. Like so, yeah, there were a few anomalies, like the Hollywood Brown missed catch on third down, but it's not like some of the earlier Ravens stuff where there were penalties or whatever. Like honestly, I thought the Ravens came out. I even wrote it down. Lots of motion in the Ravens running game, a lot like against the Steelers. The Colts just played against it a lot better. They even tried the option and it just didn't work. The Colts were ready for it. Maybe they've got a little more speed in the front, Steelers more strength, and so they were able to keep up with some of the side to side motion that was happening. I don't know, but they really played well. And I think the Ravens did eventually adjust, and the running game started to click a little better in the second half, like you said. But I would like to give the Colts some credit here. You are celebrating this victory with a margarita, so we can acknowledge that they do have good players that were making good plays. Darius Leonard is an absolute freak of nature.
Bit of an upgrade over Robert Spillane.
Bit of an upgrade over Devin Bush. Like he's what we hope Devin Bush could be. Honestly, you can definitely make Robert Spillane jokes. He is what he is. I think he's a starting level player, and the Steelers can possibly win the Super Bowl with him in the lineup. So I'm not going to fret over it. But Darius Leonard's really, really awesome.
Yeah, he is. Do you have anything else about this game? It was kind of ho-hum. There weren't many big moments of both of the styles of these teams. It's kind of like the slow, methodical, grinding drives, and so.
Yeah, there's a couple things we need to talk about. One is definitely Phillip Rivers' attempt to tackle Chuck Clark after the fumble.
Which is so sad because a lot of times when we ridicule these quarterbacks, it's on like a pick six. Roddy, you're late. We already talked about the Peters pick. And this turnover was not Phillip Rivers' fault at all.
No.
He just got sniped and fell down. And Chuck Clark didn't have to hurt him.
Returning the fumble. But he did. He did. Yeah. Phillip Rivers deserved that. So Chuck Clark's running down the sideline, and Phillip Rivers is 5 or 10 yards away from him, sort of with a side gate kind of thing going on, trying to figure it out. And Chuck Clark gives, if you're not really watching, you can't even tell that he gives him a little shimmy. And Phillip Rivers just falls. He just falls backwards down onto his back. And as Chuck Clark kind of approaches him, he does this like back arch from the ground to try to like flail himself up into the air to make the tackle. It kind of looked to me like the beginning of a seizure. Like, if I'm being totally honest, like he just like spasmed up, and then Chuck Clark just like stepped over him. It was, I mean, Philip Rivers, he can do. I mean, we've been criticizing his throwing. He can do a couple of the things necessary to play in the NFL still. Um, I would say that defense is not one of them.
Yeah,
He
not
it
on
was
the
humiliating.
top 10 list of athletic freaks in the NFL.
Like, you know that whoever throws his birthday parties after he retires is going to put that shit on a projector like every time to make fun of him for the rest of his life. It was hilarious. Other than that, I'd say, yeah, even though the Ravens running game didn't go well in the first half, and I think that the offensive line is, it's just going to be something you're working around for the rest of the year. I thought I was just writing down in my notebook, like, is this all this misdirection good? Because I can't tell if it's good because it's moving the defense or if it's bad because it's slowing down the play, which gives the defense more time to get to the ball. And as I was finishing writing that note, they ran like a fake sweep and Lamar ran his touchdown, his
Yeah.
rushing touchdown, which
Yeah.
was total misdirection, right? And I was like, okay, I guess it's good. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
good. We like it. We like it. Yeah, I mean, this is look, we talked about this last week when the Steelers did a very similar thing to the Ravens. You beat a good team, you had a bad half, and you did what it took to win. So you take it and run.
That's right.
Like, I still think that there's a race for the division. But if it comes down to the Steelers continuing to play well or get lucky or however you want to say it, Ravens beating the Colts is a big win for seeding. Like, if they'd have lost to the Colts, they'd have been looking at not only, being further back in the division, but now you're not even like ahead in the first spot of the wild card. So,
Right.
um, yeah, it's an important AFC win, and they did what it took. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've got the second of three games that are the extra cream in the Steelers game Oreo sandwich against the New England Patriots in Foxborough this weekend at 8:20. It's a Sunday night game.
Yes.
So the Ravens will head up to Foxborough to take on Cam, post COVID Cam, which is he
Mm,
was a little sharper last week, granted against the Jets. So take
yep.
that for
Looked
what it's worth.
real good against the Jets.
The Ravens should win this game going away, especially with Edelman out. The Patriots have like no weapons. Marlon Humphrey was activated off the COVID reserve list today, so he will play. And yeah, the Ravens just have more on both sides of the ball than the Patriots do right now. You can't really convince me the Patriots are like going for it. Like, I don't know.
No, I don't think they're good. I think the Ravens defense is really good. I think if you're being like totally honest with yourself right now, it's like maybe the best defense in football, almost certainly the best defense in our division currently. Um, it doesn't have to end that way, but I think the way they're playing right now, it is what it is. Although, do you know the status of Calais Campbell?
I don't. I don't know
If he,
if he's even practiced this week or not.
that's a big loss. Hasn't necessarily piled up the stats, but I mean, he's been playing really well. He disrupts that center of the pocket in all sorts of ways between just moving the pocket and the deflected passes and the run game, just messing up gaps and stuff. So that'll be a factor. Luckily, the Patriots just stink. Their best running back is Damian Harris. He's like a rookie. He's not good, and he's hurt. So basically, like, can you keep track of Rex Burkhead? Can your
Right.
stable of Pro Bowl players find him? Like Patrick
Yeah.
Queen, just
Demir
follow him.
Bird and Nikhil Harry.
Yeah. So you got that. You got to try not to get killed when Cam Newton runs you over. Somebody might get killed. That's just going to happen. Like, but the Ravens are big and physical, so they probably won't get killed. But
Yeah,
like, he'll have a couple good runs probably. And against like a bad team, you could maybe get excited about this kid Jacoby Myers, who seems to have some chemistry with Cam
yeah,
Newton. He's got a couple 100-yard games over the last few weeks. Um, yeah, is this guy the next Travis Fulgham? Maybe. Does that mean he's going to do well against the Ravens? Probably not. He's not going to. I mean, like, look, we've talked about how you beat the Ravens in the passing game. You have to have 3 to 4 better than adequate players because Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters are going to win their matchups like a lot of the time. I think that either one of them can make Jacoby Myers disappear
yeah.
like a cheap magician. Like, that's so passing game is out. Running game, yeah, maybe a little, but can they score? What are the Ravens averaging this year? 30?
Yeah,
No,
mid to
absolutely
upper
not.
twenties.
So can the defense stop the Ravens from scoring their 30? And that to me is like maybe a little bit more of a question. Not really, but like a little bit. I think Stephon Gilmore has a chance of playing, which doesn't really matter because Lamar can't hit his number one receiver for shit anyway. But it makes you feel good having him out there.
That's right.
They don't really have a pass rush. So that almost takes away some of Lamar's great strengths, which is that once a pass rush happens, he mucks it all up. So he could, like, if everything stays in front of him, he might not be tempted to run a 50-yard touchdown. So that takes a couple TDs off the board. So maybe that brings him down from like 38 to 24. Um, Here's my one big concern. Lamar, on apparently the Rich Eisen show, said that teams have been calling out the Ravens' plays. So my thought to you, Joey, is this: if teams like the Steelers, like whoever they just played, the Colts, know their plays, some of them, how many of their plays do you think Bill Belichick knows?
Still got to execute.
He knows every single one, plus the
That's fine.
ones that they haven't even invented yet.
Yeah. My thing with that is, like, I don't think the Ravens have had this like aura of like the Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, like creative offense. Like, they're not really like that creative. The most creative thing they do is motion, like pre-snap motion. Everything else is pretty straightforward. The hardest thing that they do is the read option. And even if you know the read option's coming, we talked about it all last year, uh, you still have to pick your poison, basically. You have to commit one way or the other. And I don't know. I'm sure the Patriots will be as prepared as they can be, just because Bill Belichick coached football team. They're going to be. Um, Especially on the defensive side of the ball. But I just don't think they have like the horses in the run game. With all the guys that they're missing this year, Chung and Hightower, and like these are guys right up the middle of the defense that are a big deal for them. And so I think the Ravens will be able to run the ball pretty effectively and they'll be all right.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just wanted to reference Bill Belichick cheating all the time. In my head, I was like, this is like a tailor-made game for the Ravens to like run all over the Patriots. And I was like, hmm, my daughter's watching a Disney movie. Doot, doot, doot. Let's type in my phone and see how many rushing yards the Patriots have given up their last couple games. Well, a couple weeks ago, they played the 49ers, who are a team that schemes the running game not altogether different from the Ravens. It's different, but it's similar in its motion and its misdirection, and they won 33-6. And they, if you haven't heard, have had some injuries. So
Yeah, that was Jimmy G's first game out, I think.
yeah, so yeah, when I'm cheering for the Patriots, actually, who am I even cheering for? I don't know.
Yuck.
Everybody to
You
suck.
have to cheer for the Patriots, right?
I probably just
I
won't
mean,
cheer. I probably just won't cheer. I'm I mean, I guess it's more fun for me if the Patriots win this year because they're bad. So it just makes their draft pick worse, and the Ravens, I can laugh at them.
there you
So
go.
yeah, I'm going to be keeping my eye on Chase Winovich. He leads the Patriots in sacks. He's a guy that I was possibly excited about the Steelers drafting a couple of years ago. He's number 50. He's an outside linebacker. Um, we've said this before with teams, but basically, if there's someone in the Ravens' backfield, it's probably him. He's got long hair like Clay Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
He's also white, so that's part of the reason I said Clay Matthews. Same kind of look, so that's how you recognize him. Uh, that and that he's in the backfield. Everyone else sucks. So
Yeah,
I think the
he's the Bill
Ravens.
Belichick special. He's the Mike Vrabel, Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy, like all these guys that Belichick makes them and then ships them off somewhere to be average. Um, this is him. He did have a really good play I noticed last week. He like came like from the left side of the line and like he was gonna stunt up the middle for a blitz and then backed out to the right side and then came back anyways when the ball was snapped and like blitzed anyways, and I was like, oh, that's like some clever Belichick shit. I'm pretty sure Belichick loves that guy and he's gonna turn him into the next defensive dynamo that everybody wants in free agency, and then he's gonna go play for some guy whose head's full of concrete like Vic Fangio and suck.
Probably. So I don't know what the spread is for this game, but unless it's like 17, I'm probably going to pick the Ravens.
I think I saw 7 on Yahoo tonight in
7?
our little pick'em. Yeah.
I like to change bets like this so that the odds are even better. So could I pick the Ravens to be up by 10 by the end of the first half? What odds can I get on that?
I don't know.
Put the mortgage on it.
Good talk.
Put a
Yeah.
unit on it.
Someone named Nick Foles just commented on our YouTube, "Go Steelers." So I don't think that's the actual Nick Foles, but maybe.
Did you hear that, Nick? You're not real. Yeah, man. We're looking for a big win this week.
Yep.
And I believe that we were leading into it. Were we leading into it? Were we leaning into it? Or were we going to talk about the Browns first?
We could talk about the Boot Browns.
Okay.
Oh, Nick Foles
Sorry,
is hurt.
fake, not real Nick. We're not talking about the Steelers yet, but we will because we haven't. So, at 1 p.m., as part of the sandwich, as you described it, dude, we get to watch AFC North football all day. It's going to be such a special
11
Sunday for
straight
us.
hours on Sunday of AFC North football.
If only that's how my real life worked. And that's why I subscribe to Game Pass, one of our sponsors someday. The Browns will be hosting the Houston Texans, the revamped, the not Bill O'Brien led Houston Texans, 1 p.m. I checked. I have no idea if Baker is out of COVID protocol. That seems like it would be relevant. Don't look
I
it up now. Let's just assume he's playing.
did not know he was in the COVID protocol.
Yeah, he went on the list during the bye week, and he never tested positive.
He was
So,
like the contact tracing list.
yeah, which the Steelers also have, and we'll go over that a little bit, not a lot, because I don't care that much. So Baker, they obviously want to play. Otherwise, do they have Case Keenum?
Yeah.
So that's fine, honestly. whatever.
He ran
Um,
Stefanski's offense to an NFC Championship game a couple years ago. So
there you go. Stefanski might have given Baker COVID for all we know. um, Along the lines of the offense, though, I think the more key injury related notes are that all five Cleveland offensive linemen, Treader's back, Teller's back. They both start with a T. One of them was hurt. I can't remember anymore. They're all back. The tackles are back. Wills is fine. Conklin's fine. Antonio's fine. This offensive line is sweet. They're all playing. And Chubb is back.
Whew.
Presumably, he's practicing. So if he's practicing, I don't see any reason why you don't give him the ball 100 times. That's how I understand football. So that's great. Like the Browns have to be thrilled, right? They've survived. They're 5-3. But here's the thing, Browns. We talked about it. This is one of the games you have to win to get to 10-6. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. There's games you're allowed to lose. Last week was one of them. Games you got to win. Got to beat Houston. It's not going to be quite as simple. Houston's defense stinks. So that part you got going for you. If you can just not let JJ Watt ruin everything, which two pretty strong tackles on the Browns, he'll probably mostly match up against the rookie, which isn't great, but Wills is he's pretty good. So like there's definitely teams that have worse situations against JJ Watt. So that's good. And then basically you just got to deal with Zach Cunningham, who is like all over the place in the run game. And luckily, the Browns do a really good job with pulling. They pull a guard or their center. They got multiple offensive linemen can pull. That helps you get to the second level. Then you got a big guy on a littler guy. Littler guy, Zach. Nick Chubb runs for 100 million yards, right? I just schemed your whole week for you. It's over, right?
Boom. Take the rest of the week off, Kevin.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I think offensively they basically have their way with Houston. Uh, the problem posed by the Texans is unless Andrew Sendejo magically turned into a competent safety, they might give up like 600 yards to Will Fuller. Actually,
Yeah,
scratch that. Denzel Ward's pretty good. So Randall Cobb, 600 yards.
Yeah, that's the trick. So Houston's offense is probably going to be fairly one dimensional. David Johnson was never that good. Now he's hurt. So you got Duke Johnson, who's pretty good, but he never, like, I mean, maybe a revenge game, but let's be real. One dimensional. Problem? Yes, because that one dimension is Deshaun Watson. And as far as one dimensions go, pretty good. Need I
Pretty good.
remind you about the Jihad Ward embarrassment of earlier this year? You don't remember that. You don't remember him just stiff arming him into the ground and then letting him get up and then giving him a shimmy, breaking his ankles on the same play. Um, yeah. So Will Fuller is like the big play receiver that Deshaun Watson will probably be looking to. But here's the thing: he has like the same number of receptions as Randall Cobb and as Brandon Cooks. And Randall Cobb averages many, many less yards per catch.
Yeah.
But the thing is they can actually spread you out okay. So you can effectively
Mm.
you can put, Denzel Ward in a little compartment and then just throw it to other people. That could be problematic. Brandon Cooks he's been having a couple really good games, so you
Yeah.
can't, you know. I hope Money Mitchell is earning it this week because even a one-dimensional Houston offense probably going to score against these guys.
Yeah, I think this has all the makings of a good old fashioned shootout. Uh,
That means bet the under.
the Browns secondary probably will be 13-9. The Browns
Like the Ravens.
secondary, uh, I don't know. Other than the Steelers, like this might be the deepest like wide receiver room they play this year. And I'd say the Steelers are deeper, but like top three, these receivers are better than the Steelers receivers top three, in my opinion. It's arguable,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I'm
um,
not gonna get worked up about it. You're
so
wrong, but I can see why you'd say it.
I wasn't an intentional like side swipe of the Steelers. It's
It just comes naturally to you.
yeah. Um, so I mean, yeah, that could be big problems for the Browns. But I think stylistically, the Browns have the advantage of being the team that can play possession a little bit. And so they can hold on to the ball, shorten the game up, and the way that they want to play is less volatile than how the Texans want to play, and less kind of feast or famine. And I think they'll come out and play a little bit more of a smash mouth brand of football, especially without OBJ. I think they'll be just fine. Coming off a bye week, so I
Yeah,
think the
hopefully
Browns
they've.
win this by a healthy one score at least.
Oh, I'm not that confident. Um, but I I don't know. I don't even remember what I picked. So I'm not when I promise picks, this one doesn't count because I don't remember. But I'm nervous because the Browns have like with their secondary being what it is and their pass rush, I'm just nervous that if they don't start the game well and when they lose, they don't. Like there's a bad turnover, there's this,
Yeah,
whatever. It's over. Like so you've got Miles Garrett. He seems to be healthy from everything I'm hearing from, Browns related media. But Deshaun Watson is the level of mobility that one man generally doesn't cut it. So you just keep track of Miles Garrett, and then he doesn't really have to worry about anybody else. So he can extend plays, he can do crazy things. Even Denzel Ward can't cover Will Fuller for 6, 7 seconds. Like I think, I mean, the Browns need to win. This is a playoff win, right? This is to get to the playoffs,
yeah.
so they need it. But I think they should get it. I don't know. I just can't tell. I just can't tell with them. Every time I start to believe, they just stink. And every time I disbelieve, they're like, ooh, Kevin Stefanski's being solid and they're back. And Baker Mayfield's not rolling to the right all the time. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't feel like opening my phone to see what I picked. What's the spread?
I don't
Take
know.
the underdog. I'm taking the underdog. Whoever's getting points,
Oh,
I'll
that's
probably
definitely
take it.
Houston. Houston's definitely getting points.
Are you sure?
Yeah, yeah. They stink. They fired their
Dude.
coach.
Yeah, but now they have a new coach.
In Yahoo Pick'em leagues, Browns are favored by 3.
Oh, three.
In
Exactly.
Cleveland, off a bye.
Who
Yeah,
who's to say that
give me
Cleveland
that.
can even use a bye?
Yeah,
There's
we'll
only
find out. I mean, it's Stefanski's first year. We'll see what it is, but they're already better than they've been in Baker's career. So
I'm waffling. Can I officially be waffling on this game?
yeah, ride the
I think
fence
Cleveland's better. I think Cleveland's better. I just am not sure that I believe in them.
until they prove they're not the same old Browns.
Yeah, they're just stupid Browns. Like they just always do what I don't think they're gonna do to make me look stupid. So now I'm hedging. I'm hedging. I don't know. I
That's
don't know what
fine.
to say.
That's fine. I'm on the Browns. I think it's like a 6 point win. Let's say 27-21. Boom. There you have it.
Yeah, they got to score at least 27, I think, to win. That I'll say.
All right. Moving on to the marquee divisional game of the week. The Stillers of Pittsburgh, Three Rivers fame, Heinz Ketchup. Is this in Cincinnati?
It is Not in Cincinnati.
Stay at home, and then the Bengals will go there. Joey B getting his first taste of Heinz Field and all the Yinzers and fucking singing sticks at the beginning of the fourth quarter and all that fun shit. Um, it's really, for me, like the Steelers should win this game very easily. And it's just going to be a measuring stick of Joe Burrow's development. Basically, from how has he improved since the Ravens game? That's pretty much what it is to me. They haven't really played like the crazy defense since then. And this is it. This is the Ravens and the Steelers blitz more than anybody else. He's going to have to contend with that with his god awful offensive line. He has been building a nice rapport with his receivers, so we'll see how that goes. The Steelers love to give up the explosive plays, and he hasn't really been doing that a lot this year, so maybe we see a little bit of that. The Bengals are also coming off of a bye. But James Conner will probably right the ship against these guys, I would expect. And the Steelers should win pretty easily, even though they played to the level of their opponent, as we saw last week, and so they'll probably win by 4.
Did I ever tell you my statistic about the Steelers playing to level their opponent? I might have learned it after last week's podcast. So leading up to the Dallas game, in the Mike Tomlin era, the Steelers have been, and this is on the road, so it doesn't apply to the Bengals game. They have been on the road double-digit favorites 10 times leading up to Dallas. Do you want to guess what their record against the spread?
10 times?
Yeah. Record against, you can guess their straight up record. I know
record
both.
Against the spread, I'll say 1-9.
That is accurate.
Whew. I knew it was real bad.
And 6-4 straight up. And of course, after Dallas, it went to 7-4 and 1-10.
Yeah.
So they managed to win usually, but not enough. I mean, you should be like 8
crushing these teams.
2, 9-1 against these teams. Anyway, I kind of feel like you're saying all these things on the internet so that if the Steelers underperform, you can act like it's like, oh, the end of this. I'm like much more nervous about this Bengals team than I was about Dallas. I'll say about the offense, if the Steelers fall way behind and they have to resort to all this empty set, playground, whatever nonsense you want to call it, I'm just going to be really sad. That being said, I think it'll work. Like, I think that they can do all that stuff against Cincinnati. So, like, this isn't probably the week. Like, look, if they can fall behind by 10 to the Ravens and 10 to Dallas in Dallas on their third straight week of playing away game, which is, like, pretty unheard of in NFL scheduling. So, energy is a factor. 3 straight road games, is what it is. I think they could start slow, and these things could happen, and they could still be okay. But I don't want it that way. We want to get back to doing the innovative, cool stuff that was leading to a nice balanced attack, getting James Conner going, getting that motion going pre-snap. The Bengals, they can be victimized by that. You can get them going the wrong direction. They have like 3 rookie linebackers and a bunch of idiots on the defensive line. They're just not good anymore. Maybe they never were good. Maybe we just thought they were good because they're unblockable.
There's a bunch
in the
of
preseason
turmoil
when they're playing their own offensive line.
And angst, and Dunlap's gone. It's like...
Yeah. So honestly, like, it shouldn't matter. Like, the Steelers should be able to do the spread offense thing. They should be able to do the motion thing. They should be able to do all the things. Sam Hubbard is a fairly key defensive line player for Cincinnati. He's probably their best run defending defensive lineman right now. He's been out for a few weeks. He might play. That would help them. It would even help them a little bit in the pass rush because Carl Lawson, number 58, is basically their only threat. Um, not a lot to be worried about. I would say their secondary is opportunistic. Jesse Bates has been playing really, really well. Keep an eye out for him in the postseason awards show
Yeah.
from the AFC Northcast because he is well on his way to getting a trophy. Send us your address, Jesse. And but yeah, honestly, but I said this about Dallas. Like they should just be able to do whatever they want. But we'll see. Steelers are notorious about kind of being disappointing when it comes to performance versus talent on offense. Defensively, I'm nervous. Like Joe Mixon may or may not play. I almost think if he doesn't play, it might even work in the Bengals' favor. Like they love to spread it out. Joe Mixon, I don't think I want to call him a rookie right now. Like maybe he's a rookie when it comes to like crazy Ravens weird blitzes, but the Steelers don't do those. Like the Steelers aren't going to send two outside corners and line up nine people on the line of scrimmage. They just don't do those things. So like that's an issue because when the Steelers play zone defense, which is easier to disguise, it's easier to confuse a rookie because they don't necessarily know where the defenders are going to be. But I can tell you where the Steelers are going to be really far away from all the receivers. Like that's what happens when they play zone defense. So no big deal there. And when you play man defense, it's easier for a rookie to understand because they just know that he's on him and you're on him and so the Steelers are better at that, but it's going to be easier for Joe to figure out. So I honestly think I think the Bengals should score like on the Steelers. I think that their receivers are good. You know, AJ Green is like the worst one right now. So that's a good problem to have. Like T Higgins is making plays. Uh, Obviously, Tyler Boyd is awesome. Although I think that the Steelers slot situation with Cam Sutton and Mike Hilton probably coming back is good. Um, yeah, and AJ Green or Auden Tate or I'm not worried about Mike Thomas. I'm not going to go that far. But yeah, I think they should score. Like I think the Bengals should score 20 points. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, the Steelers should shut them down or whatever." Like, dude, this Bengals offense has been going crazy the last few weeks. Like
Yeah.
no one is stopping them. And the Steelers are giving up yards. They are continuously getting these timely turnovers in the red zone and stuff like this. Like it honestly wouldn't surprise me if it takes 30 points for the Steelers to win this game. I'm not even trying to like lower expectations. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe the pass rush just rattles them because Cam Hayward can hit you once and make you not want to play anymore. But like I'm nervous. I'm nervous about this.
Yeah, I think that's the edge that the Steelers do have defensively is the pass rush even without the blitz. And yeah, their blitzes are more straightforward, whether it's Spillane or Mike Hilton. Like, you know it's coming when it's coming, pretty much. Um, but even when they're not blitzing, I, Bobby Hart and Michael Jordan and like Jonah Williams and all these guys. I mean, if you're the Steelers D line room, you're salivating. So it could be bad
Yeah,
news.
we said that about Dallas though, and what I will say is to emphasize this because everybody is starting. Everybody knows about T.J. Watt, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody is now knowing about Bud Dupree, and so that's where all the excitement is because everybody loves watching those guys run around the corner and kill people. But of all the weeks, I might say this equally many weeks, but this week is this week, so it matters the most right now. I want domination from Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt. Joe Burrow is a rookie. He likes working the middle of the field. I need those middle guys to dominate because if they're pushing the pocket back, Joe Burrow is going to have a lot more trouble reading the middle of the field, which means it's harder to throw those quick slants. You're getting your hands up, you're disrupting things. I think that quick rhythm passing game and a lot of the stuff that Joe Burrow likes to do gets ruined if Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt are consistently pushing that middle of the pocket. Bud Dupree and TJ Watt, they might make a splash play that we come back next week and we're like, player of the week, Bud Dupree, strip sack or whatever. But like that stuff doesn't change how a guy like Joe Burrow processes the field, which is how the Steelers can actually like impact him up here and dominate the game. Is if they have that middle collapsing on him and he's seeing that, then that's when he gets freaked out. That's how the Steelers can create the Ravens effect of freaking him out, is with domination up the middle. And Tyson Alualu might also play, and he doesn't get quite the statistics, but he does crash gaps and make bad things happen to open up opportunities for other people. So that could help. I'm going
You
to
got a
pick the
prediction?
Steelers. I'm going to pick them, but honestly, I think they're favored by, what is it, 10?
Sounds about right.
If it's double
Oh,
digits,
7.5.
I honestly like, I'm going to pick the Steelers, but I think the smart money is on the Bengals.
There you go. Joey covers.
I think the Bengals are decent. Like
Yeah.
they haven't gotten blown out almost at all. The Ravens blew them out, but the Steelers, like, look, they're better than the Ravens, but they don't blow teams out like the Ravens. It is what it is.
Their record is better than the Ravens.
And they're
That's what you'll get from me.
and, and they beat the Ravens, so
Yep.
that's that. That is that.
They scored more points than the Ravens, but they didn't
On the field
beat
against
them.
them.
They didn't really
They beat
beat
them.
them. The Ravens beat themselves.
There was a winner and there was a loser, and the Steelers were the winner, and so they won.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh, the Steelers and the Ravens beat the Ravens 2 weeks ago. The
Well,
Steelers by
hopefully this.
themselves cannot beat the Ravens.
No, that's a theory. Hopefully the Steelers and the Bungles will beat the Bengals. That's what I'm hoping for this
There
week.
you go. Alrighty, so that's it for Week 10. If you're fortunate enough to be able to watch 11 straight hours of AFC North football, I think each game, well, not each game, the first two games should at least be interesting. The Ravens-Patriots game probably won't be super interesting if you're not a Ravens fan. If we're being honest, this is not the same Patriots team, and we're seeing why Brady chose to leave, because he didn't want to be out here hucking passes to Demir Boyd and Jacoby Meyer all the time. So
True that. Congratulations to OB Jealous of my pick'em and your host Stiller Chad for dominating the pick'em this week.
oh, the 1 week that Chad knows who won the pick'em. Go figure.
Actually, I've known twice because that's how many times I've won. So joke's on you. Joke's on you, Joey.
So join the pick'em. Go to our Facebook page, and you can find, excuse me, not too far down, the pick'em login stuff to sign up and compete with us and get a little shout out. Pretty much, OB Jealous of my pick'em is pretty much has the best record every week, and whether it's like with someone or not tied with someone, she's crushing it. So
Yeah.
shout out, Sam. Other than that, we will see you all next Wednesday when we will be talking about whether or not the Bengals are the best team in the AFC North.
That will be interesting.
Later, everybody.